my loves. It's so good to see everybody today, and I hope that you're doing well. I hope that life is going well for you. And thank you for coming and dropping by for our little coffee chat. Make sure that you get something to drink and have a chance to really settle in and talk to me today about the emotional baggage that you carry and what you should be checking before you get to that gate. Drop your boarding pass in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from today. Today, we're talking about baggage, and not the kind that I used to deal with while working for the airline. We're talking about the that kind that sneaks into our lives, piles up, and makes us hoarders. And let me tell you, TSA wouldn't let half of this fly. So, if you know you've got some baggage, and who doesn't, drop a suitcase in the chat. Don't worry, this is a no judgment zone, and we're all checking a bag or two. Also, if you're watching this on replay, go ahead and hit hashtag replay so that I can see that you've caught up with what's going on. I know that many people watch it after the fact, especially since some of these coffee chats are scheduled. So let me know that you're watching and leave me those comments. I'd really like to know where you're coming from. So let's kick this off. My overweight suitcase. So when I was packing for my trip to Rome, the plan was simple. I was going to pack light because up until then, I really have always been a carry-on bag flyer. Ever since I originally went to Israel on a trip and took two big overstuffed bags, which then I ended up leaving most of the stuff there before I came home, I realized that traveling light was the way that I wanted to go. But this was going to be a month-long trip, and I was going to be in various countries. It was the first trip that I was going on that was like that, solo and big and bad. So suddenly what was just my little carry-on turned into a large check bag, a full carry-on, a stuffed backpack, and my medical kit. And I thought I'd be fine. I could check the bags through to Rome. I was going to meet my driver at baggage claim. But here's what I didn't factor in. My Airbnb wasn't ready when I arrived. The host said that I could stash my bag at a luggage shop just around the corner. And that corner turned into a 4-block uphill haul on cobblestone streets with the Coliseum staring me down as if to say, "Girl, did you even do this to yourself?" So every step, I regretted every extra outfit. And honestly, the emotional bag that I was carrying on that trip was heavier than all of those suitcases combined. I was adjusting to an empty nest. It was the end of a beloved long-term relationship that I'd had. I had just left a job that I thought I'd retire from, and I was starting a new business. I was in a foreign country on a tight budget, and I had no safety net. So there was a lot going on, to say the least. And here's what I should have done before I left. I needed to go through my emotional baggage and pare it down. Because just like with the suitcases, if you don't check your baggage before boarding, it ends up in your hotel room. And yes, along the way, I did meet someone who definitely wasn't my type, who sometimes made me want to punch him, still does, but who also made me laugh until my ribs hurt. We had matching baggage, kind of like coordinating luggage sets. It was tequila fueled, it was messy, and destined to stay in the friend only category. And you know what? That's okay, because every piece of baggage I unpacked taught me something about myself. So, what about you? What's the funniest or worst baggage a man has ever brought on a date with you? Drop it in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking and how this applies to your life. So, going back to that baggage, let's break it down into some categories and see if we can figure out what it is that you need to pack or unpack or repack and move on, because this isn't just about dating. It's about life and empowerment and how to travel lighter on your trips but through life as well. So, first type of baggage that we want to talk about is the carry-on chaos. That those with trust issues and control freak vibes. And honestly, this was me in Rome. 20 things shoved into a bag meant for only two. Same goes for emotional baggage. You can't bring your past issues in with their original messy packaging. You have to unpack them, repack them with a purpose, and decide what's really worth carrying with you. Because the lessons are important, but you don't want them in their original packaging. Second, how about this one? The overweight luggage, which really is unresolved ex drama. And ladies, sometimes that ex just won't stay checked. Let's say a friend of mine has tried everything. Uh, Her ex meddles with her suitors and has put himself on her electric bill. No matter how many times she tosses that suitcase, it magically reappears. So what do you do about that when that person just will not go away? Well, here's what I would do. I put it back on the trash pile the second it shows up. I'm not paying storage fees for that baggage that I don't own. It is no longer a part of my life, and I am not playing that game. So the best thing to do there is, if it shows back up at your door, you get rid of it again, and eventually, hopefully, it'll stay away. Number 3. So this is lost and found. The ghosting, breadcrumbing, hot and cold men. And I'll be honest with you here. This one really gets me because I don't quite understand it. I don't have a problem with endings. I know that most relationships are not meant to last a lifetime, not romantic relationships. It's really hard to find that one person that you can be with for the rest of your life. But the disappearing acts, that feels so much worse. And it's hard to understand why somebody just disappears out of your life when you've had that connection and those good feelings, and when a friendship could be there. So I keep people in my life that I've connected to, and I feel like they enhance my life and I enhance theirs. But not all people agree with that. What do you think? Can you be friends with someone after the romance is gone? Is it possible that perhaps you weren't ever meant to be romantically linked? Is there a possibility that you can just stay friends after that? I love that vibe. I don't generally go back to a romance that has shut off. In fact, I can't think of a time that I have. However, I can stay friends with people, and my Facebook friend group will show you that I am friends with people that I've been romantically linked to in the past. But even though those romantic vibes aren't there, the friendship ones are. They're a part of my history, and I've moved so often in my life that if I don't continue to have those friendships, I will miss out on chunks of my life because I'm no longer in that part of the country or that part of the world. So I appreciate having those moments. There really is a very small group of people that I have completely cut out of my life for emotional purposes, like the suitcase that keeps showing up that I keep trying to throw away. Oh, I mean, a friend that has a suitcase that keeps showing up. However, I believe that we can be friends. What do you think? chime in. Let me know, how do you feel about that once the romance is gone? Do you just leave and shut it down and cannot continue? I'd like to know what you think. And of course, number 4, duty free delusion. These are the people who look good on paper, but they come with hidden costs. You think that you're going to get through with it, but then once you really spend time getting to know each other, it is not a good fit. They look all polished and shiny and perfectly packaged, but then you get home and you realize you just paid way too much for a knockoff. If it's not the real deal, here's where you have to walk away. If they're putting a front up, and sometimes they don't know, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't see themselves how they truly are. I think we all sometimes have blinders to who we truly are. We want to be the people that believe all the ideals and live up to them. But when we get down to the nitty gritty, we perhaps are not quite that ideal. However, and perhaps this is why I share too much of who I am, is that I don't want to be that shiny surface. I'd rather you see me warts and all than to have you put me back up on the shelf because I wasn't who you thought that I was. So what do you think? Have you run into that person that presents themselves as perhaps being forward thinking and men's and women's roles are arbitrary and you have to decide who you are in the relationship? This was me, my 20-year-old self, when I met my then husband. I believed a package that wasn't exactly true. And the thing about it was I was really too young to even know exactly who I was. So it's taken me a long time to figure out what I truly believe and who I am. And so have to give people the benefit of the doubt and think that they might not know all of who they are. But as we get to this age, and that's what makes the difference between dating now and when we were in our 20s, I know who I am and what I expect and how I should be treated and how I want to treat others. And so running into one of these types of situations, I already know how to begin to unpack those situations. But what about you? Which baggage claim line are you stuck in most often? Are you with the carry-on chaos? Do you try to carry too many things on when you're only allowed to? Or do you do that overweight luggage? Do you still have that unresolved ex drama? Are you stuck in the lost and found with the ghosting and breadcrumbing when somebody gives you just a little bit, feeds you these lines that he's interested in you, but then goes months without texting or emailing and is hot and cold? Or are you in the 4, duty-free delusion, where you pick up something that looks way better than it is on the inside? So getting down to it, no matter which one you're stuck in, let's talk about the cost of carrying that with you, the baggage fees. And that emotional baggage costs us. You know, Spirit Airlines might charge you $79 for a carry-on, but these fees, they will rob you blind. The first one is settling too fast. When you have all of these unresolved issues, there's a great chance that you will connect and jump into something before you're ready because you don't want to be alone or you haven't dealt with one of these past issues, and so you don't understand that you need to wait for the right experience. I once had a man who brought me flowers on date 2, which was great, sweet, right? But by date 3, he was asking about moving in and blending families. This wasn't romance. It was a man trying to bypass TSA, and that settling fast cost me peace of mind. It is important to recognize that knowing takes time. Knowing someone else and knowing if you're right for each other. You get all those ooey gooey feelings and they feel great. But if you're starting to get those red flags, and that's my number 2, is when you see the red flags, believe them. If somebody tells you who they are, believe them and don't ignore those red flags. So this is another cost that I dated a guy who made me laugh so hard. I almost forgave the fact that he kept forgetting his wallet 3 times. The cost? Well, my confidence in speaking up. The only thing that I should have been carrying was his bill to the cashier. It is important that when we see those red flags, that we don't ignore them, that we accept them and we decide whether we're going to settle for it, whether we're okay with it. But generally, I encourage you, when you see the red flag, decide that that is baggage that you're not going to carry, that you're not going to ignore a red flag, something that you can't live with, and move on. No more settling, ladies. We're moving on without that extra baggage. And number 3, a third cost of carrying this baggage with you is losing confidence in yourself. After being ghosted enough times, you start shrinking yourself. You think, maybe if I expect less, say less, want less, he won't disappear. But that in and of itself is robbing you of who you are. It makes you miss out on the trip that you're taking. This happened to me recently where I was being ghosted while living in the same space as the other person. They were just absent from my presence, and trying to make myself less than I was so that I could fit into whatever scenario that he was needing me to fit into robbed me of the experience that I should have been having. And it cost me my sparkle. So, ladies, your sparkle should not be negotiable. Be you. If they can't accept you for who you are, then they're not the right person for you. And again, friendship should be on the table. And this again goes back to that travel buddy agreement. Perhaps before getting too far into something like this, you have that conversation and really decide, hey, is this just going to be a trip fling and we both know it and that's the end of it and there's no communication afterward? Or, hey, we're just going to be friends, we're just sharing the same space. Don't be afraid to be yourself, to say what you want, and let them hear it. And again, it is better to have that confidence and be who you are and go into it knowing that that is the end of it, than wondering and having the anxiety of, well, maybe if I was less, they would have enjoyed me more. Maybe if I had just fit into the box that they'd wanted me to fit into, we could still be friends. It is not worth diminishing who you are to fit into their box. So, I'm going to give you a little mini exercise. Close your eyes for a second and ask yourself, what baggage is costing you your peace right now? Drop one word in the chat if you want to name it. What baggage is costing you your peace right now? What is going on in your life that is something that you can name and pack it away so that it no longer is costing you that peace? You got it? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This is your boarding pass to freedom. You are going to write a breakup letter to your baggage. Airlines always remind you to remove all the personal items before deplaning. Right now, I'm going to have you do the same with your baggage. You're going to write a breakup letter. So, for example, dear baggage, you've been heavy, ugly, and you never match my shoes. I'm leaving you at baggage claim forever. Unclaimed. Goodbye. Or perhaps, here's a more serious example. Dear fear of abandonment, you've controlled too many of my choices. You made me say yes when I absolutely should have said no. Right now, I'm leaving you here at gate 42. Wrong flight, wrong gate, wrong woman. I'm going to give you a minute just to think about what would you say to your baggage. So, I was once dating a man who carried around his ex like she was his TSA pre-check. She got priority boarding in almost every conversation. He was raising her kids. She was a third part of this couple relationship. My letter to that baggage, short and sweet. Dear ex who isn't mine, wrong gate, wrong flight, wrong woman. And perhaps it's that simple. Perhaps going through it and writing that down and making a conscious effort to no longer have it affect you or your peace is really the answer. So here's your thing. Fill in the blank in the comments. Dear baggage, blank. So, here's my travel truth. The best trips that I've taken are the ones where I've packed light. And that goes for the best relationships too, where I've been very open. I've not taken too much into it. I have only been pared down to the things that I've known. I've repacked all the original packaging. So let me ask you this instead. If you had to go through custom check for dating, what would you declare? For me, I'm down to 2 carry-ons of optimism, 1 backpack of sass, and 0 tolerance for liars. So, what's your funny declaration? Well, ladies, I want to thank you all for checking baggage with me today. It's been so fun to talk about baggage again in a way that is positive and uplifting. Just a reminder, we talked about the overweight suitcases we regret packing, the 4 baggage claim lines that we all get stuck in, the fees that we pay when we carry too much, and the freedom of writing a breakup letter to baggage we don't need anymore. Remember, check your baggage at the gate and only board flights that take you where you want to go. Next Tuesday, we're going to be talking about carry on confidence, how to pack power into your love journey. And bring a friend, especially one who's still dragging a bag that's about to burst open. I'm going to be at a conference and I'm excited to bring you live from Richardson, Texas, and can't wait to hear what you've done with your journey and how you dealt with the baggage that you've been carrying around. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I hope you have a fabulous weekend. Bye, y'all.